The impact of the agreement is going to be a massive. After running the business model, we're expecting a growth in our GDP by 1.7% in the upcoming 10 years, which is around 9 billion. There will be huge impact on the exports as well, which is around 1.5% in the upcoming 10 years. And that is just above the $7 billion. The export as well is going to have a huge impact. It's around 3.8%, which is around $14 billion. And it's going to create jobs. We're expecting more than 140,000 highly skilled jobs to be added to the economy in the upcoming 10 years. So a huge deal, huge integration between the UAE and Indian economy. We're looking forward to boost the trade, the investments, the SME engagements, trade through the digital economy through this engagement.
So how exactly will this agreement actually boost UAE-India trade and investment ties? And can you be more specific on the type of sectors that might actually benefit the most from this?
There will be, for sure, focus on the private sector to be taking the lead on the implementation of this deal. There will be, for sure, tariff elimination on more than 80% of the goods that goes to India. And there will be significant economic benefits for both countries by having more market access, new attractions of investments, creating opportunities in key sectors, which I'm going to mention in a few seconds, and for sure, better market access in the service sector. We're talking here about business services, telecommunications, constructions and developments, education, environment, financial system, health-related services, tourism for sure, and hospitality and transportation services, including both maritime, air transport services, and online services. So the scope is very big. There's so many areas to work together. And I'm sure through this deal, there will be more cooperation to come in the various sectors.
And it's interesting to see this all taking place now because, as I understand it, the UAE is also in the final stages of signing agreements with countries like Israel and Indonesia, for example. It's also in talks with Turkey and shortly the Philippines as well. Is this a signal perhaps that the UAE is using trade as a tool of economic diversification, but also a tool of diplomacy, given the outreach to countries like Israel and Turkey, where relationships have been strained in the past?
Well, trade has been always an integral part of our economy. Historically, the UAE has been known as a hub for trade, and we're going to continue maintaining our regional and global leadership when it comes to trade, being a trade hub. How that is going to be a tool to work with countries, we're just making sure that we're capitalizing and we're directing economy and trade to become a tool for more prosperity, more stability wherever we go. And we know for sure, whenever there is a strong economy and strong trade, prosperities and stabilities are always there in those regions. And what we want to make sure that we're creating jobs, we're creating more business opportunities to the young generation, and being a real global trading hub, linking Asia with Africa and Europe.
And of course, we're also just coming off the back of a very high-level visit from the Turkish leader here in the UAE. How do you see trade between the UAE and Turkey growing as a result of these improved relations?
Well, the trade between UAE and Turkey has not stopped. Even the last few years, things continued moving smoothly. Last year, we saw a significant growth in our trade between both nations. We reached $13.7 billion last year in 2021, which is almost a huge growth in comparison to 2019. And we're talking here about almost 86% growth. Turkey for us is the seventh largest non-oil foreign trade partner. And we're going to continue exploring more and more opportunities with them. With the CEPA and with the whole agreement and MOUs which has been signed during the president visit, we're expecting the relation to reach 20 in the upcoming few years and 30 billion in the upcoming 5 years. So we're very optimistic that we're going to take this relation forward with very aggressive trade volume between both nations.
And with regards to the reforms that we've seen on the ground, the last few months have seen a new visa regime, a new foreign ownership law, There's a new labor law in the country, a new working week here as well, among other reforms. That's all great, but what about this new tax on corporations, 9% from June next year? Won't that be a burden on business here and perhaps even a hindrance when it comes to attracting new foreign investment?
Well, the corporate tax is going to replace the most of the initial fees that the private sector are paying now. So there will be a shift between the conventional fees that we're applying now to the global corporate tax, which most of the countries are going to apply based on the OECD agreements last year. So we're following the international standards when it comes, and it's considered one of the lowest percentages globally. We're going to maintain our competitiveness when it comes to being an attractive nation to businesses, but we're going to reshuffle the way that we're running the businesses in a way that applies to best international practices.
So how will this new tax enhance the UAE's investment climate, though? Because up until now, the UAE's tax-free status has really made it an attractive and competitive place to do business. So what impact do you expect this to actually have, and will it necessarily change how the UAE is seen by potential investors and businesses around the world?
Again, as I said, the corporate tax is going to be applied globally and has been agreed by most of the countries and nations globally. What we're trying to do here is we're ensuring that the businesses are successful and then they start paying the taxes instead of having the fees paid at the beginning of their initial work of establishing their companies. So it's we know for sure through the ecosystem that we have, the regulatory framework and the infrastructure, we're going to continue maintaining our position as an attractive nation to companies and international investors. And again, the 9% is considered one of the lowest corporate tax globally, and we're going to ensure things are smooth to make the ecosystem as smooth and as easy to our investors.